Welcome to Nursing with Professor B. My name is Bridget. I have a master's degree in nursing education. I'm also a family nurse practitioner. This video today will be a tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman was not only a phenomenal actor, but he was a wonderful human being. He did so much for minorities. He became a hero, an icon for minorities, and fought for representation. The tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman has inspired me to make a video on colon cancer, signs and symptoms, and what you can do to recognize and also prevent colon cancer. The reason why I'm making this video is because I was extremely saddened by the passing of Chadwick Boseman, and I feel like I want to do my part, and my part is bringing awareness to this issue and educating the general public. So my goal with this video is to hopefully reach someone that if they catch the symptoms early enough, that they don't have to go through what Chadwick Boseman did. And if my video can help save one life, then really that will have been worth it. Boseman was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer back in 2016, which eventually progressed to stage 4 before 2020. There are so many lessons to learn from this, compassion being one of them. This man was literally dying, and he still made movies during that time. He continued to work, and he completed several films, which were Marshall, The Five Bloods, and Maraine's Black Bottom. The takeaway is we don't know. We are all carrying our own crosses, our own burdens, our own illnesses, our own traumas. And it's so important to be kind to people. Colon cancer signs and symptoms. This is the colon, and you have your ascending, your transverse, and your descending colon. You have your sigmoid colon, your rectum. Colon cancer has stages. At stage 0, this is where there's abnormal cells, and they're only in the inner lining of the colon or the rectum. In stage 1, the cancer has started to penetrate the lining or mucosa of the colon. It may have grown into the muscle, but it hasn't spread to the lymph nodes or other parts of the body. In stage 2, the cancer has spread to the walls of the colon or rectum, but it hasn't traveled to the lymph nodes or it hasn't affected the lymph nodes. In stage 3, it has moved to the lymph nodes, but not to other parts of the body, and this is unfortunately where it was diagnosed in Chadwick Boseman. It had gone to the lymph nodes. And think of the lymph nodes as a superhighway to other parts of the body. Once it gets to the lymph nodes, think of cancer as a hitchhiker, and it essentially hitchhikes to other organs. And then in the last stage, stage 4, cancer has spread to other organs. For example, the liver or the lungs. This year, an estimated 147,950 adults in the United States will be diagnosed with colorectal cancer. And it normally affects older adults, but there is a rising incidence in younger people, and researchers don't really know why. It is estimated that 53,200 deaths will be attributed to colorectal cancer this year. And colon cancer happens when healthy cells that are lining the colon or the rectum, they begin to change and they grow out of control, and they form a mass called a tumor. And these tumors, they can be benign, which is non-cancerous, or malignant. A benign tumor means that it will not spread to other organs, whereas a malignant tumor does mean that it will grow and spread to other parts of the body. These changes can take years to develop, which is why it's so important to get checkups, why it's so important to be screened. Usually age is an associated risk factor for colon cancer, but as we saw with Chadwick, that was not the case. Family history, it may run in the family. It's very important that you let your provider know if you have a family history of colorectal cancer. That way, individuals that do have a family history of it should start being screened earlier. Right now, according to the United States Preventative Service Task Force, Screening for colorectal cancer usually begins around 50 years of age, but if you have a family history, you should start earlier, sometimes as early as 45 years of age. There are a few rare inherited conditions that increase your risk for colorectal cancer. So again, knowing your family history is important. Have you had deaths in your family due to colorectal cancer? Let your provider know, start being screened early. It's just how women know that if they have that gene, the BRCA1 or BRCA2, they're at increased risk for breast cancer and ovarian cancer. If people have inflammatory bowel disease, such as ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, they're also at increased risk of colon cancer. Now, it's important to note that this is inflammatory bowel disease, not irritable bowel syndrome. Irritable bowel syndrome does not increase your risk of having colon cancer. Another risk factor is having adenomatous polyps or adenomas. Polyps are not cancer. Some types of polyps called adenomas can develop into colorectal cancer. And I believe that Will Smith had a polyp that was an adenoma that he had removed, and he was able to essentially nip this in the bud. If you have a personal history of cancer, such as ovarian or uterine cancer, you're also at increased risk for having colon cancer. And as previously mentioned, Black people have some of the highest rates of sporadic non-hereditary, which means it wasn't in your genes, colorectal cancer in the United States. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer-related death among Black people. There needs to be more education in the Black community. I know that a lot of minorities hate going to the doctor. You rather drink your teas, do your herbs, but I'm telling you, it's important to be screened. You want to catch it early. Black women are more likely to die from colorectal cancer than women from any other racial group, and Black men are even more likely to die from colorectal cancer than Black women. It says that the reasons for this is unclear, but just my hypothesis is a lot of minorities, we either don't have health insurance, so lack healthcare disparities, right? Lack of accessibility to screening. A lot of times we will avoid doing screening as well, but a lot of it has to do with just being treated differently when we go to a provider. So make sure that you are taking responsibility for your health and you're asking for these screenings ahead of time. Black people are more likely to be diagnosed with colorectal cancer at a younger age. So screening, according to the American College of Gastroenterology, Black people should begin screening for colorectal cancer at age 45. Other risk factors for colorectal cancer include physical inactivity and obesity, nutrition. In fact, the World Health Organization a few years back published a study where there was a direct link to red meat and processed meats in contributing to colon cancer. So diet plays a major role also, and smoking. So stop smoking. If you smoke, all of these increase your risk for colorectal cancer. Signs and symptoms of colon cancer. If you have a change in bowel habits, so all of a sudden you're having lots of diarrhea, or you used to be regular and now you're constipated. Diarrhea, constipation, or feeling that the bowel does not empty completely. If you see blood in the stool, if your stools look narrower or thinner than normal, if you have discomfort in your abdomen such as gas pains, bloating, and cramps, weight loss with no known explanation, fatigue, iron deficiency, anemia. This is a mixture. This picture has signs, symptoms, risk factors. But again, if you notice change in your bowel habits, if you have rectal bleeding. Now, if you have rectal bleeding and it's bright red, don't be alarmed, but it's important to get it checked out. It could also be a hemorrhoid. So get things checked out, but don't immediately think cancer right away if you notice one spot of blood. If you have blood in your stool, so make sure that you're checking your stools. If you feel, this is called tenesmus, if you feel like you went to the bathroom, but like you still have to go, like your bowel didn't empty completely, so your bowel doesn't feel empty. If you have abdominal discomfort, now risk factors for colon cancer include drinking alcohol, being African American, sedentary lifestyle, poor diet, diabetes and obese, and the 11.7 is probably referring to their A1C, which is the glycemic control over 3 months. And the screening process would be a colonoscopy. There are other tests that can be done to check for fecal occult blood. You don't always have to jump to the colonoscopy, but I'm telling you, if you are African American, suck it up, buttercup. And at 45, you need to start getting screened. It could be your life on the line. Prevention. What can we do to prevent colorectal cancer? You want to make sure, so diets that are low in fiber have been linked to increased risk for colon cancer. So you want to eat a diet that's rich in fruits and vegetables, a diet that's low in red meat. Don't worry, you're not going to die from protein deficiency. One book I highly recommend is called Proteinaholic. It was written by a medical doctor, and it discusses the notion, this crazy notion that we've developed in pretty much the United States of the astronomical amount of protein we think we need to consume to be healthy. There have been some studies that say calcium and vitamin D can also help prevent colon cancer. You still need more studies. And also studies have found that non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs and aspirin may also prevent colorectal cancer. But unfortunately, you don't want to take these. You don't want to pop these like Skittles because NSAIDs and aspirin have side effects. You could get an ulcer. NSAIDs raise your blood pressure. So go with the diet richer in fruits and vegetables. Cut out some of the red meat. You can take a multivitamin. I wouldn't do this unless you talk to your healthcare provider and they recommend it or they put you on a baby aspirin. Start with food. Let thy food be thy medicine. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you hugged your loved ones extra tight today. And here's to hoping that this world becomes a better place.